As we come to the final video in my major mode series, I'm left with a bit of a puzzle. Can one distinguish the Ionian mode from the major scale? Does the Ionian mode have an essential quality? Obviously, there's plenty of music written in a major key that evokes any of a wide variety of moods, but I think that pretty much all of this music uses different techniques to twist and augment the natural sound of the major scale. If we were to take the major scale with no key changes, no borrowed chords, no secondary dominance, not even the most subtle emphasis on other chords within the key, we might just be able to get to the pure sound of the Ionian mode. In doing this, treating the Ionian mode like any of the other modes, finding its characteristic notes, the 4th and 7th, and teasing out its natural qualities, I find it produces an extremely relaxing sound. A perfect example of what I mean is the museum theme from Animal Crossing New Horizons. The music is decorated in slightly different ways depending on which part of the museum you're in, but it's all based around this simple repeating 8-note figure, rising 6th intervals moving up and back down the major scale. This may just be the most relaxing piece of music ever written. We start with the 3rd of the key jumping up to the root, then the 4th jumping up to the 2nd, then the 5th jumping up to the 3rd, and then we move back down to our starting position. It's inarguably simple, but the natural beauty of the 6th interval and the major scale's relaxing quality really come through here. I could sit and look at Fish to this all day. I think a big part of what makes this feel relaxing is that there's no functional harmony happening. You could analyze this as implying either a 1, 2, 3 progression or just trading between inversions of the 1 chord and the 2 chord, but either way we don't have any strong sense of tension or resolution. There are no big dominant chords that want to resolve to a 1 chord, no sense that we've gone away from our home base at any point in the music. Still, we do get a slight sense of motion from the movement up and down the scale. If a perfect cadence is a catapult that shoots us from one place to another, this feels more like lying on one of those floaties in a swimming pool. So now the question becomes, how else can we use the major scale without using any functional harmony? This seems to me to be the key to using a modal Ionian sound. One solution that you might remember from some of my previous mode videos is to use a bass pedal. In my Lydian mode analysis, I specifically mentioned using the raised 4th in a chord progression over top of a tonic bass pedal to evoke the sound of that mode. Well, how about doing the same thing with the natural 4th? Relm's theme from Final Fantasy VI does this exact thing, with the entire intro and A section never straying from its tonic F-sharp bass note. Over top, the strings move down the F-sharp major scale, harmonized in 6ths, in a move extremely similar to the museum music that we just heard. These strings highlight both the major 7th and natural 4th of the key as they move through the scale, producing a beautiful, relaxing effect. I'd say emotionally, this tune feels very similar to Animal Crossing's museum theme, but the details add a bit of a twist. These subtle banjo arpeggios and the Japanese hichiriki flute have a rustic quality to them, and working together with the Ionian sound, we evoke a sense of quaint rural peace. In functional harmony, the 1 chord is seen as a place of rest, so it does make sense that sticking to that 1 chord for an extended period would have a relaxing or restful quality. If we want our bass line to move at all while still getting to that Ionian sound, though, we'll have to use weak harmonic resolutions rather than your typical perfect and plagal cadences. In general, 5th motion, like a perfect cadence from 5 to 1, sounds strong. 4th motion, like a plagal cadence from 4 to 1, sounds less strong, and stepwise motion sounds weak. The Sunrise and Onett theme from Earthbound departs a bit from the slow, serene nature of the music we looked at previously, but while it does feature an upbeat groove, it still captures some of that relaxing Ionian quality. Maybe it's more of a fun, sightseeing vacation kind of vibe rather than lying at the pool, but we're definitely not breaking a sweat with this one. The melody, harmonized in thirds, sticks mostly to a C major sound, the tonic of the key. But the bass line and accompanying guitar part shift back and forth between C major 7 and D minor 7 chords, the 1 chord moving to the 2 chord. A 2-to-1 resolution is pretty weak as far as resolutions go, and every aspect of this arrangement seeks to accentuate that weakness. Adding the 7th to the 2 chord puts the tonic of the key, C, into that chord, making it feel like even less of a departure from home base than it otherwise would. This absolute classic of a bass line ends each D minor arpeggio with a leap back up to a C note to prematurely kill any of the momentum there would have been resolving from D down a step back to C. The relaxing, safe sound of the Ionian mode combined with this jaunty groove feels so good. We're just vibing out. We're having a great time. Not a care in the world. We see the exact same weak D minor 7 to C major 7 resolution in the Super Mario Bros. Star theme. The contrast between the stress-free nature of the Ionian mode and the fast, syncopated rhythm here creates a feeling of invincibility. You're not relaxing per se, you're actually likely running and jumping more frantically than ever, but there's a sense of relief knowing that you're safe from danger until that star power wears off, and the harmony plays into that sense of relief. I have a little mode fun fact that I noticed over the course of making this series, and that's that the tritone is super important to the sound of every mode. See, the notes of the major scale contain one tritone interval between the 4th and the 7th. You'll notice that these are the characteristic notes of the Ionian mode. The natural 4th keeps the scale distinct from the Lydian mode, and the natural 7th keeps it distinct from the Mixolydian mode. Since all of the major modes use the same pattern of whole steps and half steps as the major scale, they each similarly feature one tritone relationship somewhere within their notes. And it just so happens that each of their characteristic notes, the notes that define each scale, falls on this tritone relationship pair. The Dorian scale is like a minor scale but with the raised 6th. Look at the minor 3rd and raised 6th. That's a tritone. The Mixolydian scale is like a major scale with a flat 7th. If we take the major 3rd and the flat 7th, that's a tritone. The Lydian's sharp 4th, tritone against the root. Phrygian's flat 2nd, tritone against the natural 5th. Locrian's flat 5th, tritone! The most important notes of each scale, the notes that define their sound compared to all the other modes, always seems to be in this tritone pair. The tritone is a hugely important part of the sound. That's probably why the 7-note scale became the foundation of Western tonal music in the first place. You just don't get the same emotional flexibility out of 8-note scales like the diminished scale, say, or the 6-note whole tone scale, for instance. Astute music theory nerds will have noticed as well that these characteristic notes of the Ionian mode are the central players in the voice leading of functional harmony. The 4th resolving down to the 3rd and the 7th resolving up to the root are two of the most important voice leading movements that create the tension and release that we associate with functional harmony. I've mentioned in the last couple of modes videos the voice leading of the scales, by which I mean how the characteristic notes of the modes want to behave, where they want to go, and what the emotional effect is when they go there. Pallet Town's theme from the original Pokemon games showcases beautifully the natural voice leading of the major scale, without resorting to any functional chord movements until the second half of the tune. The first 8 bars are written in counterpoint, with 3 individual melody lines that weave around each other independently, and each voice creates a totally satisfying line on its own by using this basic major scale voice leading. The bass line centers around the tonic G note, jumping up to the neighboring A and walking up from the E to the F sharp to the G to create some movement, all while keeping G at the center. The middle line focuses more on the third of the chord, but branches out more than the bass line with these G major arpeggio figures, incorporating the fourth, C, into the arpeggio line to bring a satisfying resolution back to the third, B. The melody that we all know and love is mostly made up of scalar motion down the G major scale, with some G major arpeggios thrown in to bring us back into the higher register. As much as I talk up the voice leading of the 4th and the 7th, it's undeniable how strong the voice leading is walking down a scale from the 5th to the root, and how much it captures the sound of the Ionian mode. Altogether, the three voices sound like this. Relaxing, isn't it? Pallet Town isn't a place of danger or intrigue or even adventure. This is the home that we know we can always come back to when times are tough. That makes the sound of the Ionian mode the perfect fit. Making this video series on the 7 major modes really got me thinking about what these scales are for and how we can interact with them. It's well-trodden territory as far as music theory goes, but I did learn a lot studying and thinking about this stuff. I think we can make a distinction between the major scale and the Ionian mode, even if the line is admittedly a little blurry. But treating the major scale the way we typically treat the other 6 major modes can lead to some pretty cool sounds, and some very relaxing music. Honestly, I went into this video assuming that pure Ionian music would be very boring. I guess Mary Had a Little Lamb is the first thing that comes to mind when I think major scale melodies. But these tunes proved me wrong, and I'm very pleased to find a practical use case for the Ionian mode. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series. Stay tuned for a follow-up video covering the melodic minor mode sometime in the next month or two. If you'd like to support what I do, you can check out my Patreon page, and I hope you have a very relaxing day.